The genre I've selected to do is a psychological thriller. I've done this because I think that this is a unique genre in a way, as most of my other class members have done almost generic genres, as they've done horror and crime. In order to make sure that my actual piece was to the best of my ability, I watched a number of film openings. The Black Swan was very beneficial to me to watch, as it was an extreme close-up of somebody drawing in black chalk. This helped me in a way because it had tension within it, because of the fact that this person slows down and speeds up, and the shots in between are quickly paced, and the audience doesn't really notice unless they sit down to watch it in this way. The tension built was really important to me, as it showed me that I could build up tension not alone with my acting but with the way I edit the actual film within itself. The fact that there was no acting in this piece did hinder me in a way, as I couldn't really see how they've used their actors to create tension within this piece. This helped me because it showed me that I needed to show that there's going to be danger and action within my film, and I could do this because I could add lighting. If I had had to create the rest of my film and show my antagonist's face, I would have had him in a dark location. However, because the film is mainly focused around my protagonist, I used the opening to introduce her fully and show the audience what her problem actually is. The protagonist is always shown in a light location within my piece, apart from the last location, which is slightly duller, as I wanted to show that her feelings aren't as bright as she tries to portray. She's shown in her office, which is yellow. This yellow office shows that she's normally a bright and intelligent and bubbly person. However, because she manipulates someone in this office, it contrasts, so it makes the audience think what she's truly like. In the car, I have put her in this dull setting, not only to make it realistic, because cars are naturally dull inside as they don't have natural light sources that are able to get in, but I also made it dull because I wanted to portray that this person on the other end of the phone is making her life dull and miserable, as they've taken her son away. I watched a number of horror films, which included The Woman in Black and Insidious. I watched them to see how the lighting was used, and this is how it inspired me to use lighting in my film. The Woman in Black is constantly dark when it's in the haunted house. This shows how the poltergeist, or how Arthur Kipps is feeling within the actual piece. They are haunted, and this connotes that by using dark colours, as the dark colours aren't really bringing them any hope. In Insidious, again, they use dark colours. This is because, again, a son has gone missing. This is in a spiritual world. This scares the audience as they're not aware of what's happening, and as it's dark they can't see, so they then feel vulnerable. As it shows no light, so it shows that there is no hope for this child that has gone missing. So therefore they do wonder if this child will ever come back, as they won't see the light or the hope, which signifies that this child will come back. My film represents people in different manners. My therapist is a woman who is manipulative, and she's dressed professionally. This creates a bunch of stereotypes in a way. The first stereotype that I think it creates is that all therapists are going to be manipulative and not really care about their patients. If you haven't been to therapy, this is what you might think about it, that they have this manipulative manner that they are able to use upon you if they so need it. This isn't the case. Most therapists are out there to help people. The second stereotype I have created within my piece is the fact that they all dress professionally. I think this is a correct stereotype, and I think I portrayed them correctly. However, I have broke stereotypes by using this character also. My therapist is a woman. This is often not the stereotypical view of a therapist. When I had done my research, I had asked people to create this stereotypical therapist. They often said a male. This I thought was a bit peculiar because there are female therapists around, so I felt like I need to put emphasis on this within my film. I think I did this correctly because most of my characters were women. This wasn't done intentionally in the first place, as most of my family members and people I know are women. However, by using a woman as my protagonist and a male as my antagonist, it creates another stereotype that males are horrible and wicked people and women are caring. I've made my therapist a modern woman, as she's not domestic, she has her own job, and by making her single within the world, it shows that she doesn't rely on anyone. So therefore I have broke a stereotype that every woman needs a man, which is obviously viewed within modern society, which it shouldn't. I have presented my patients in therapy as being easily manipulated and young. The young person is shown to be manipulated easily, as she's made to kill herself, which is an extreme. However, my therapist has done this in order to get her son back, so it's not really a malicious act by the therapist. However, she's still got manipulated. This shows that to a person who has never met a patient from therapy before, this may think that she is a very gullible and manipulative person. This isn't the case because most therapy patients aren't actually this isn't the case because most patients from therapy actually help themselves and don't rely on their therapist to help them. I've also portrayed my therapy patient as if she has no originality, as she's dressed in black and white all of the time. I think it takes away from her character. However, I did this to show the audience that she's lacking hope. The fact that the black is slowly rising on her waistline shows that the hope is reaching a point where she's going to have none left. I have presented police officers as if they are caring. This makes the audience feel there's a personal connection between my therapy patient and the police officer. However, there isn't. The police officer, although she isn't seen a lot, she has a very important role within my piece, as she explains a lot of the story just by her dialogue. As she's caring, it creates a stereotype that all police officers care for their cases. This is, however, not always the case, as most police officers have more than one case going on at one time. I personally believe a company that specialises in this type of film would distribute my film, because it isn't a big blockbuster film that would make a lot of money. The genre is often seen as an unpopular one, as it's not highlighted within society. I believe a company like Fox Searchlight Pictures would show my film and distribute it. This is because they have distributed films like The Black Swan before. The Black Swan was successful as it had an estimated budget of £13 million. On its opening evening alone, it earned nearly On its opening evening alone, it earned nearly £10 million. So that's more than half of its budget back. Plus, the sales of DVDs would have also increased this, so this is why it was successful, as it made more than it did to produce. I believe this film did well due to the fact there was a lot of trailers and famous actors within it. This film, The Black Swan, had Natalie Portman in it. This film had a really famous American star, So that means many fans of Natalie Portman would have actually gone out to watch it for the sheer fact she's in it. I believe my film wouldn't make it into the cinema. I believe that it'd be sold on DVD straight away, as it'd be sold like a B movie. However, if this wasn't the case due to its nature, it might just be sold on Netflix or Love Film Instant, or it might even be put on YouTube. YouTube now has a category for films. Some you have to pay for and some you do not. It might fall into the some you have to pay for part, as it did have a slight budget for costumes. However, it depends on the popularity of the actual film, which I believe would be good because of my audience feedback I received. I believe a company like this would actually show my film due to the fact it's unique because of the horror elements within it, and this isn't a thing most psychological thrillers have. So when watching the film, people will want to know what's happening from the start, so they don't feel vulnerable within certain places of the film. I personally believe there's no other film like it. This is because so many people wouldn't have. I personally believe that there would be no other film like it. I think this is because not many people would actually include a true story within their film. My film is related to a story I'd recently heard on the news when creating my plot, that back when a institution for mental patients had started, a mental patient had escaped and killed a young girl. This inspired me to think, well, if a mental patient was capable of escaping and then murdering an innocent child, maybe this said person was capable of escaping and just kidnapping, as I didn't want to put murder within my psychological thriller, as this is often a strong theme and it wouldn't allow me to build on my plot, as there would be no hope of getting that son back. If I wanted to use that plot, it might have been more beneficial within an action film. When I was first storyboarding my original plan was to have an age range from 12 up. However, due to the nature of the suicide, I thought I'd increase the age range to 15. I thought this was appropriate, as I was 16 when filming. So if I was able to deal with this sensitive matter and film it in a way where it's not seen as disgraceful and untasteful, I thought that people younger than me and older than me would be able to watch the film. I believe that this is a suitable age range due to the fact it leaves the door open to a number of ages. It's not just confined to one age. I think it appealed to young teenagers, as there is a character within it their age. That's the therapy patient who unfortunately commits suicide. This may be not a character that they relate to, but as they would have seen this character from the start, they would be interested within if they find out what's happened to her. I think young adults would watch it because there is characters they can relate to as well, that being the teenager or the adults playing. They're at a position where they can relate to either character because they know what they have done in the past, but they also want to know what it's like in the future. The audience members that are older, say in their mid-40s or 30s, I think they would relate to the therapist and the police officer, and that is because of the fact they are doing their jobs and that they are middle class in a way. They might relate to them because of the jobs they do and the fact they do them well. This could be argued that they are actually role models for these people. I don't believe the elderly would watch my film, as I believe it's too modern. I think with their upbringing from the past, I believe that they wouldn't want to watch this film, as they might find it distasteful. Also, as it's based on a true story, I don't think they'd want to remember the horrific crime that had been committed. I think that by making it about this crime, I have secluded them by making it about this crime, I do believe I have secluded them from the audience, as some people might not want to remember what happened. The reason my film appeals to teenagers, young adults and adults is because the cast members are at their age themselves. So again, these audience members have a character So again, these audience members have a character to relate to. This would help when finding the correct audience, as I could do some research to go deeper on who would want to see within these groups, therefore making a smaller audience. But this would make my film sell because this specific group would enjoy my film more than a large group. I pulled my audience straight into my piece by opening with the therapy session. This is very important as it showed some of the plot, however did not give too much away to the audience. The audience at this point in time will have questions they need to get answered. By making the audience ponder so early on, makes them think what could happen later on within the film. And if make them think what happens later on in the film. The fact that they're pondering so soon make the audience actually think, well, I need to find out these answers. By making them ask questions so soon, they're more likely to watch the rest of the film, as they don't want to be left on a cliffhanger. I also threw my audience in at the deep end, as they don't really know a lot about the characters. They have to infer some things from costume and actions and lighting. This I thought was very good, as it keeps suspense and tension, and there's some things that they don't know, so that might make them curious and make them want to watch. My audience will be specifically targeted due to the research I did prior to filming my piece. I use many theories in my piece, such as the hypodermic needle effect. Due to the verisimilitude of the piece, they might actually think that what they're seeing is actually true. However, because it's based on a true story, at the end of my film I might have to put on a short clip saying that all of the things they have seen have been based on a true story. However, some points are not true. I took this inspiration by watching a ITV drama called Law and Order UK. At the start of every episode they have a black screen with white writing on it saying that they have to take disclaimer that none of this that they have created relates to any crime in real life, and if it does, it is completely coincidental. I had previously used the camera equipment used in my piece because I did media at GCSE. This helped me because I didn't have to fiddle around with what I was going to do and set up things and not know how they work. So the main problems I faced was during editing, as I'd never used a Mac before. I'd never used a Mac before. I had never used a Mac in my life, and to use such a complex program as Final Cut Express, I believe I did very well with the information that I had. The information that I had was just on the screen. At home I'd watch many tutorials on how to use Final Cut Express, and I believe this helped me a lot. I learned how to cut and clip things off my actual piece, so if something wasn't needed I could take it away. I also learned how to zoom in, rotate and crop my images. I believe this was very well and beneficial for me, as I could see everything. I also learned how to crop the size of an image. This is because I had to zoom in to get rid of some headroom on one of my pieces. By cropping the image I made it fit in with the rest of my pieces by not making it too stretched out from the rest. After I was shown what I learned this by asking for help. And once I had help on how to do it, I deleted what had been done. Then I had repeated it myself to make sure that this technique stayed in my head for next time I needed to use it. The text I originally chose when editing did not really suit my piece, so I decided to change it. I changed it to something called Lucia handwriting. I believe this is appropriate, as often in therapy they handwrite, so it's almost like my therapist had written over this life. I remembered all of the steps that I needed to do and to change my handwriting. I remembered all the steps I needed to change the writing, so this wasn't really that much of a problem. The handwriting I have now is a lot better from what I had in the first place, as it looks as if the therapist is actually writing on the film, so it's like she's putting her own unique twist on it.